Facts. To know. The origin of the word, nirvana, relates to religious enlightenment. It comes from the Sanskrit meaning, extinction, or disappearance, of the individual to the universal. In the Buddhist tradition, nirvana is described as the extinguishing of the fires that cause rebirths and associated suffering. The Buddhist texts identify these three fires, or three poisons, as raga, which means greed and desire, dvesha, which means aversion or hate, and moha, which means ignorance or delusion. The state of nirvana is also described in Buddhism as cessation of all afflictions, cessation of all actions, cessation of rebirths and suffering that are a consequence of afflictions and actions. Nirvana is part of the third truth on cessation of dukkha in the Four Noble Truths doctrine of Buddhism. A state of freedom from all suffering that Buddhists believe can be achieved by removing all personal wishes. A state of being perfect. Liberation is described as identical to non-self, or lack of any self. In Buddhism, liberation is achieved when all things and beings are understood to be with no self. Nirvana is also described as identical to achieving something, emptiness, where there is no essence or fundamental nature in anything, and everything is empty. Achieving nirvana is to make earthly feelings, like suffering and desire, disappear. It's often used casually to mean any place of happiness. In Buddhism, we are said to be trapped in samsara, an existence filled with suffering caused by ego, our desire to create and maintain a permanent self that is not subject to change. We achieve nirvana, a state of total peace, without any clinging or struggle, when we are completely free from the illusion of ego. One who reaches nirvana is called an arhat, an enlightened person, who is free from suffering and free from the poisons of passion, aggression, and ignorance. Mahayana Buddhism also teaches that it is possible to go beyond dwelling in nirvana and follow the path of the bodhisattva who attains complete Buddhahood by dedicating themselves to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Nirvana literally means quenching or blowing out, in the way that the flame of a candle is blown out. But what are we blowing out here? Is it one's soul, one's ego, one's identity? It cannot be the soul that is blown out, since Buddhism denies that any such thing exists. Nor is it the ego, or one's sense of identity, that disappears. Although nirvana certainly involves a radically transformed state of consciousness, which is free of the obsession with me and mine. What is extinguished, in fact, is the triple fire of greed, hatred, and delusion, which leads to rebirth. Indeed, the simplest definition of nirvana in this life is the end of greed, hatred, and delusion. It is clear that nirvana in this life is a psychological and ethical reality. It's a transformed state of personality characterized by peace, deep spiritual joy, compassion, and a refined and subtle awareness. Negative mental states and emotions, such as doubt, worry, anxiety, and fear, are absent from the enlightened mind. Saints in many religious traditions exhibit some or all of these qualities, and ordinary people also possess them to some degree, although imperfectly developed. enlightened person, however, such as a Buddha or an Arhat, possesses them all completely. What becomes of such a person at death? It is in connection with final nirvana that problems of understanding arise. When the flame of craving is extinguished, rebirth ceases, and an enlightened person is not reborn. So what has happened to him? There is no clear answer to this question in the early sources. The Buddha said that asking about the whereabouts of an enlightened one after death is like asking where a flame goes when blown out. The flame, of course, has not gone anywhere. It is simply the process of combustion that has ceased. Removing craving and ignorance is like taking away the oxygen and fuel which a flame needs to burn. The image of the blowing out of the flame, however, does not suggest that final nirvana is annihilation. The sources make quite clear that this would be a mistake, as would the conclusion that nirvana is the eternal existence of a personal soul. The Buddha discouraged speculation about the nature of nirvana and emphasized instead the need to strive for its attainment. Those who asked speculative questions about nirvana, he compared to a man wounded by poisoned arrow, who rather than pulling the arrow out, persists in asking for irrelevant information about the man who fired it, such as his name and clan, how far away he was standing, and so forth. In keeping with this reluctance on the part of the Buddha to elaborate on the question, the early sources describe nirvana in predominantly negative terms. These ranged from the absence of desire and the extinction of thirst, to blowing out and cessation. A smaller number of positive epithets are also found, including the auspicious, the good, purity, peace, truth, and the further shore. Certain passages suggest that nirvana is a transcendent reality which is unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, and unformed. It's difficult to know what interpretation to place upon such formulations. In the last analysis, the nature of final nirvana remains an enigma, other than to those who experience it. What we can be sure of, however, is that it means the end of suffering and rebirth. In Buddhism, nirvana is the highest state that someone can attain. A state of enlightenment, meaning a person's individual desires and suffering go away. Nirvana is a place of perfect peace and happiness, like heaven. It represents the final goal of Buddhism. Thanks for watching the video. For more update to my new videos, press the bell icon. And please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to support my channel. Thank you.